This podcast provides a platform for our guests to share their experiences and inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. As you listen, we invite you to explore how these concepts apply to your own story. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful. We're mic'd up with Mike DiCioccio. Due to a technical issue this week, I'm only able to produce this episode in audio form. As a treat to make up for it, one of Christina's hits with BREAKERBOX, full disclaimer, it's a tearjerker. Here's a teaser of Miss You. We are here with Christina DeNee. I'm so excited for this episode. Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Christina is out in Nashville right now. She's originally from Buffalo. You're going to hear her whole bio in a second, but she's enjoying Nashville. What's it like right now? This is the day before, we're recording this the day before Thanksgiving. So what's the temperature like right now?
It's about 62 and sunny. So I don't know what to do with myself. It's very different.
Yeah. I'm going to check. Here in Buffalo, it's 56, so we will take that as a victory. It was raining.
Yeah, absolutely.
On my way back here, I recorded an episode, and I was cruising back here to make sure we were on time, and it was a beautiful morning, and then all of a sudden it's raining sideways.
There was a big storm here last night, too. It's very similar. Like, the weather's not that different. We just don't get the big snow down here.
Yeah.
Which was good for me. I needed a break for a little bit.
But let's not kid ourselves. I saw your post. It wasn't too long ago, maybe a month ago, where it was like high 80s. Mm-hmm. You guys are still enjoying it?
Yeah, it was 90 on October 5th. So it lasts a long time down here. Yeah. I was ready for it to end by that time. It's very
right.
Like for a very long time. But it's great. The allergies were a little bit of a tough transition too. Nobody talked about that. We came down here for like 4 years and no one brought that up. No one said, "Oh, by the way, you'll die."
I heard there's like crazy critters too. Like, you get a knock at your front door and there's like a centipede that wants to like fight you for your lunch, like there's some big crazy insects in Nashville, right?
No, they're big. They're really big. And, I'm good with that too. But luckily that's more Scott's department.
He puts the hazmat suit on with the baseball bat and starts fighting them.
We have like peppermint oil and we spray all around the house, and you just have to kind of stay up on it and then they go away. But it's nature. I mean, we had a nice big snake in the front of our patio, and like there's a gecko that hangs out.
Maybe we have a new sponsorship. Thanks for mentioning them.
There you go. He lives in my house.
Oh man, I love it. So, little backstory, and then we're going to hit your bio. But Christina and I met a couple years ago now. I believe it was 2 years ago, through an opportunity with Social Chameleon. I saw her, I forget how we originally connected, but anyway, you were doing caricature art for a mutual client. You got me in front of the owners of Bounce Magic, so thank you again for that.
Oh, that's right.
And then I got to bring, shout out to Bounce Magic. And then I got to bring my daughter Isabel out to their location while you were doing some caricature art, and I saw you in action, and right away I was connected. I saw how passionate you were, seeing the kids so happy and like the line growing behind you, and you did a great job. And then I tuned into your music career, and being a fellow musician here in Buffalo, I know we have a lot of connected or a lot of friends, mutual connections.
Small
community, and then I love what you're doing. So we're going to talk all about that. But if you guys are tuning in right now and you're not too familiar with Christina, or maybe you do know her from Buffalo and you don't know the whole story, here it is. So working professionally as a vocalist since age 7, Christina started performing with her father at local clubs in Western New York, quickly moving into her own projects in both local and national scenes. She is best known as singer-songwriter and one half of the music duo BreakerBox. Born out of Buffalo, BreakerBox has been releasing material and performing throughout the country since 2010, recording at the exclusive Atrium Studios located in the home of Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee, and sharing the stage with popular acts such as Seether, Theory of a Deadman, Living Colour, Alicia Keys, and many, many more throughout LA, New York, Las Vegas, and Nashville. That's awesome. She's entertained sold-out venues such as Hard Rock Café, Thursday at the Harbour in Buffalo, KROCK, Rock is Alive series, The Next Big Thing, TV pilot, Life in DIY, Do It Yourself for all those that aren't familiar. The series was co-produced by Red Bull and Heineken, to name a few. And most recently, this is really cool, Christina and BreakerBox, they teamed up with the Wounded Warrior Project to produce a music video. Shout out to Denny Kremblis, right? Denny K?
Absolutely. He directed a few of our videos, actually.
Yeah, phenomenal videographer here in Buffalo, New York. He helped, he shot that music video for the Wounded Warrior Project, produced it, and it was a tribute to military families featuring their song Miss You, which earned national recognition. Now based in Nashville, Christina works as a songwriter, a session vocalist, and is working on top secret new material with BreakerBox in 2020.
Yeah.
I tried to get the inside scoop, guys, and she was locked down. She wouldn't give it to me.
I'll tell you about it now.
We're going to get the scoop. I love it. She's also a professional artist on many fronts. She's the owner of Big Head Cartoon. It's a caricature art company that launched in 2008 and now serves both Western New York and Nashville. And a couple years in, Big Head Cartoon was appearing 4 to 5 nights a week at both corporate and privately owned restaurants. And lastly, in late 2018, she developed a unique program. This is really cool. Big Heads and Beats to service Middle Tennessee's booming event industry, bringing a live caricature artist alongside a volume-controlled drumming DJ playing all the hits. And they turn a typically boring wait line into a party in itself. And you know what? That fires me up. I've seen you in action. I love what you do. Scott's a phenomenal drummer. And so let's party. Let's do this thing. Again, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for the awesome bio. I realize why I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like it's really good when you put it all together like that, but that's it's still a decade, but
right.
It's nice like that.
Yeah. Before I dive into the first question, something I wanted to compliment you on too is I love seeing all your content on social media. Social media is great to keep up with friends, family, businesses, news, whatever it might be. Sports, but there is a lot of negativity that flies around. You check the comments section, and a lot of times you're just like, what are these people doing? They're spending way too much time trying to bash everybody. So when I see an inspirational post come through on Christina's feed, it's like, someone gets it, and someone's just like putting great energy coming out of your social media. So I love that, and I don't know if I've ever thanked you for that, but I'm sure you have noticed that I'm tuning in, right?
Yeah, no, thank you. I know it's you and a few other folks in my immediate circle of people that we all kind of do that for each other, because that's what you got to do. It's like I think that's in life. You could go it's one or two ways. It's a choice every time. Do you look at it half full, half empty? Everything's kind of like a t-shirt now, but it's really true,
Right.
So I always try to, and it's really, sometimes it's for myself to keep myself in it, because it's life, we're all just trying, every day you wake up, just trying to stay in it. Stay in the fight. So it helps. It's better than going the other route, and there's enough people doing it.
Yeah, energy can go both ways, right? And so instead of being kind of victim to it, you use it and utilize it. And I know you've had some trials and tribulations and a lot of things going on from a young age, but what's really cool is you reflect on it and you're very transparent about it, and you use it in your music and you use it in your art. And so that is one of the reasons I felt we connected like right from the beginning was you just had a really good, really good spirit, really good energy. So let's talk about that. Your bio mentions you performed with your dad at a young age, and I know your mom was also an artist. That's where you get your natural talents from right there, right?
Yeah, I had no choice. They both are ridiculously talented people.
Your parents are both good looking too. I saw a picture of them like from 70s, 80s or whatever. So you got their genes.
Good looking.
Now, did they embrace you being an artist at a young age, or was it something you learned more through their influence? Was that like a conversation at the dinner table?
Yeah, no, they really, my parents were very individual people. They're very unique, both of them. They met in art school at McKinley in the late 70s.
Awesome.
And so I think they were together for like 15 years or something before they had me. So it was a very, it was decisive. They wanted to have a child. They wanted to make an artist. So it was very calculated. And my mom in particular really wanted to kind of fill me up with everything that would be good for me to be a good influence on the world. Like it was that dramatic when I was.
Wow.
5. So, but they really did. My father was a caricature artist and a musician. My mom was a musician and an artist. My mom was very shy. She didn't like to perform. And my father is the opposite. He'll perform in front of anybody at any time. My whole family on that side.
Yeah.
So that's where I get my ham bone. Like, look at me. Like we're in a fight of who's more energetic and spotlighty. But they both really worked very closely with me. So my mom worked with me at home on mainly my art, but she was more of an influence on what I was listening to. So we would have on a daily basis, her record collection was immense. She was a ridiculous Beatles fan. And not only that, she just really wanted me to learn about the record process and like who the producers were and who the writers were and what studio, like what was Abbey Road. So I was the only 4-year-old that knew all the words to American Pie and also knew what Abbey Road was. So, but I'm really grateful. So that was a really big part of her raising me at home. You know, she worked from home. And my father was a very, very hard worker. So he always had a good job at a plant in Buffalo. So he's in Buffalo, everybody worked at a plant. But so he would do that. And then at night he would go and draw and sing and perform. And he would get the clients and bring them back to my mom and they would kind of work from the house. So I was just kind of part of it. You know, I was in at a very, very young age. So, and they divorced when I was pretty young, but they both still worked. So when I lived with my mom, I saw her hustle, I saw her working and how she created her life as an artist, which was challenging for her, you know, especially at that time, being a woman. I see the benefits of my time, of being able to be my age at this time on this planet and having all these opportunities that my mother just didn't have. You know, so she struggled way more than I have ever had to struggle. And my father, on the other hand, you know, he just worked at every nightclub there was. This is when the Bills were killing it and everything was like the early 90s. And, you know, he drew and played at every club 5 to 7 nights a week. My dad was all around the community. So I just went with him. And I think it was more like they were like the Jacksons. They kind of used me as like look at my daughter, she can sing. So I would go up at like 5 years old and start singing. Kind of like you and Isabel. That was just what we did.
I can relate. I mean, I'm not as I play a little bit of guitar, cowboy chords, so it's hard for me to show her that. But she does like sitting on my lap and we drum. And she's also, funny you mentioned the Beatles. She loves the Beatles. And I have to say, shout out to the show Beat Bugs on Netflix. If you have a kid and you love music and you love the Beatles, there's this really cool show. It's like, it's not by Pixar. I don't know if it's DreamWorks, but it's like, you know, kind of Toy Story animation style. And it's all Beatles music. And so, you know, like her favorite song is Yellow Submarine.
Good.
Fun, right?
The Ringo tune.
and like I remember being, I don't know if I was 4 or maybe 6, but I remember being similar in age to Isabel and hearing that song. My parents had the actual record, and I knew how to operate a record player. You know, grew up in the late '80s and early '90s, and I remember hearing Yellow Submarine and just bopping around to it. And so I'm like, I bet you Isabel would love this. You know, she would probably really like the song, and I was right. And so she bops around to it. And so then we'll listen to like the whole album, you know? And I just you could see like in a child and, you know, you could just see that they're feeling music. Music is something you feel. It's a universal language. And something that's kind of funny is as a drummer, my favorite songs, I admittingly so, I don't know the lyrics. I can tell you the drum beat.
I don't know the names of most Zeppelin songs.
I don't know the names. I'm like, you know, so, that's cool. So your parents instilled that and you got to experience it, which is the most important thing.
You know, I should say too, my grandparents too, my dad's parents were both, my grandmother was a singer, on the radio in India where she was from. And my grandfather was, a stand-up bass player in the Marine Corps. And then he always stayed real active in like barbershops, quartets and stuff.
That's amazing.
And he was in a Dixieland band. So he was probably, anybody from Buffalo may remember 23 Skidoo. They used to go around the Erie County Fair. My papa was the one with the tuba. And so, I mean, my grandfather played music till a few years before he passed away. So I really didn't know that there were other things. I thought everybody played music and drew pictures. I thought that's it.
That was what you did. You created. So you were creating at a young age and just being around it. Now, are you self-taught on piano and vocals, or like did they actually teach you how to read music as well?
No.
By ear, play by ear.
Lessons going on there. No, my dad is a real just authentic, like by ear kind of guy. He didn't really have lessons either. So
sure.
He's just not a lessons guy, you know? So I ended up taking lessons in piano when I was in my 20s, like way, way later. But I really was grounded a lot.
Sure.
Some people that know me personally will, like back then, really are like, no, for real. She was grounded all the time.
That allowed you to experience music.
Yeah. My mom passed when I was 10, and I moved in with my dad and my stepmom, and she had a piano. Thank God. and I, you know, it was bumpy. The situation was very hard, and so there was a lot of friction, and I would, you know, get in trouble a lot, and I was in my room a lot. And then, you know, if I had the house to myself, I had this beautiful piano. So I just started kind of sitting down at it, and it was very natural for me. I loved piano. My dad was a guitar player. So he was always pushing me to play guitar. And I play guitar, like kind of like you said, the cowboy chords. It was never something I was super, super into. It was like my second choice. Piano just called me. My Aunt Sherry had a piano. My grandma had a piano. I would always just sit at them and hear music, and I would play along until it sounded good. And I just did that blindly for years but I just did it every day. It was just all I did, you know, and I drew pictures in my room. You know, that's how I got through that time in my life.
That's crazy. I mean, obviously you don't want to hear that. I mean, sorry to hear that you lost your mom at a young age. You were 10. But music kept you connected. You knew that she loved it, and you knew that when you were drawing, when you were drawing, do you feel like you were connected in a way where your mom,
totally. No, I feel very connected to my whole family when I do that stuff. And, you know, and sometimes in life, you know, things get very hard, and personalities, especially as you grow up, everybody, you know, they're different people, and you grow in different directions and stuff. But that whole core of drawing and singing and writing music, and my dad and I, that was our big bond, was like writing music, because he's a really great songwriter. So he would work with me when I was 11, 12 years old on, you know, he'd always tell me, you got to fall in love first, or you won't write a good song.
That's awesome.
I don't believe that's true, but it's definitely, he writes really, really good love songs. So he would always kind of help me with that and explain, you know, why songs maybe hit with people, and, you know, why lyrics went certain ways, and what a chorus was, and what a bridge was. And, you know, so anytime I play music or I draw, I feel super, super connected to them. And especially my mom, because she really helped me with my art more than anything.
Cool.
She was kind of strangely obsessed with it.
Yeah. Now, did your mom did caricature art also, or that was your dad?
My mom did everything. She was an incredible, incredible artist. She did oil paintings. She did portraits. She used to do all the signs in the windows at like Tops.
Oh, wow.
Back in the
like
80s.
Cursive,
she did
pricing.
all of them. Like if you went down where I was from in Riverside, down into Tonawanda area, like my mom did all those Tops signs and stuff. So I would go with her, and she would paint on the inside because it was so cold. So she would paint backwards. And it was crazy. Like, it's crazy who I lived with for 10 years.
That is crazy. I can't imagine doing it forward. She's doing it backwards.
Yeah. I can't do anything like she did. That's kind of my goal in life, is to be as close, maybe as good as she was.
Yeah.
Still not there.
I want to talk about songwriting too, because I'm interested in it personally, but I feel like anyone in the audience who's either played an instrument, been in a band, or just simply loves music can appreciate this. So, and there's kind of two schools of thought on songwriting or creating a song as a band. Do you and Scott, do you guys like write parts? Like, do you write out lyrics and then maybe come with some chords in mind, and then you show it to him and write the song that way? Or is it kind of like a jam session where you're jamming on the keys, he's playing a drum beat, and then you feel the song that way, and maybe you take that recording and then write lyrics after? How do you guys attack songwriting?
It's happened all those ways. It depends on the situation, and it also depends on our lifestyle, which we found out over the years. Because I've been writing and playing with Scott for like 20 years. We met when I was a teenager. So we've been in bands. We were in a cover band together. We were in like an R&B original / cover band with, you know, different writers and collaborators. My God, I mean, we've been in like 15 versions of music. So I have my own studio that I demo my own work in, and then Scott has his own studio that he demos his ideas in, and sometimes we'll like meet up and I'll sing on his stuff, or he'll, you know, I come up with a lot of concepts and I can't talk, compositions, and he'll like kind of go through the lyrics with me. But we work with a lot of different people too. I mean, the stuff that we did, that we ended up at Tommy Lee's with, we wrote a lot of that with Joe Pinavaya on guitar, kind of jamming in a room together, that then we would work on them individually later. And then we worked with Chris Baseford, who was our co-producer, and it changed even more. So it really just kind of depends. We'll do whatever it takes to make the song the best we can. That's always been our goal. If people click with it and it goes anywhere, never up to us.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just interesting. I know one of my favorite bands of all time, the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And they've been on record saying, you know, most of the songs that they've written, and Rick Rubin produced a lot of their, probably a handful of their albums, from Blood Sugar.
Best stuff, I feel.
Yeah, their best stuff. I love Rick Rubin. He's recorded a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to. So, and I remember hearing that they would go in and jam, you know. That's would just lay down a beat. John would lay down some funky guitar, and Flea would just start ripping the bass, and Kiedis would take it, write lyrics, and go back. But what's interesting is, like, I believe it was their last record, The Getaway, which is kind of more studio, kind of poppy, kind of it's different. It feels different when you're listening to it. It's still the Chili Peppers at the core, but it has like a different vibe to it. And it was produced by Danger Mouse. He's like a famous producer, but he's totally different than Rick Rubin. And he challenged them to come and write the songs in the studio instead of just jamming them. Like, they were doing layer by layer, kind of like how the Beatles did it, where they each would bring like, here's my verse, here's your bridge.
That's kind of what we tend to do, if we mean to or not. It just kind of, because I play, you know, I use a lot of virtual instruments because I play piano, so I hear a whole thing in my head, so it helps me kind of get it together, and we just kind of do it together in layers, you know, and then we bring it to someone else and say, do you think this is crap, or can you make this better? And sometimes they just come out. Like, there's a song called Love Will Make You Home that I wrote in 5 minutes on my acoustic guitar in my living room, and we've never touched it. Like, it was just done. Like, so sometimes they all have a life of their own, and God help me if I understand the process. It's been like a lifelong thing. I think I've learned just to let it be. Like, the Chili Peppers, that's their process. It works. They know their sound. They know each other. You know, Scott and I know each other, but we've sometimes hired in other players. You don't have that familiarity. It's not something that, you know, and even now we're collaborating with some people here. And so we're doing it even more different. Like, we have demos that we've been playing live for a long time, and now we're going to go and bring those in the room with these guys and start hacking them up like they didn't exist. Yeah. You know, so it's weird. So we just kind of do.
It's cool too. Like, an idea you had 7 years ago that maybe never got produced can come out in the studio. You know, you're tinkering around on the keys while maybe the, you know, producer's working on something, or they're laying down a drum track with Scott, and you start tinkering on the keys, and then Scott hears it and he's like, wait, what was that? And then you got a new idea, a new song, and you're like, my new song is 7 years old, but let's do it, you know? It's really
Summertime, fun. The song we put out, that was based off the song from like 2005 that we just like the riff. And so we like the energy and the riff, and that was it. So we just took that, and then, you know, I wrote lyrics to a whole different set of chords, but that's a song that we played in like 2005, and it turned into a song that we released in 2013.
That's great.
It just happens sometimes. Sometimes you got something good that just never really made its, you know, got its light, so you just have to grab it again. But sometimes that's you know, sometimes it's a drag. At the same time, you don't want to keep pulling stuff that you had from years ago, and you just kind of need some fresh ideas. So that's what we're kind of doing now. We got a bunch of this new stuff floating around.
Would you say if someone's writing a song and they're maybe struggling and they're putting a lot of time and energy and it's not coming out, the best thing to do is to walk away from it for a while, let it breathe, and maybe readdress it in a different, you know, if it's just not coming together, don't force it?
Yeah, I think so. There's an element to that. I mean, who the hell am I to say? I'm still like struggling to figure it out myself. Yeah. But I do find, like, Scotty's really good at that, of saying, you're like, you know what, before we kill this or each other, let's stop and walk away. I'll keep going. Like, I'll just and I've gotten better at that over the years, because it does exhaust the, you're not supposed to force it, but there is a point where you're supposed to readdress it. You can't just kind of go like, well, I don't feel like it, because you may never feel like it.
Because it'll sit on the shelf forever.
Yeah. And then I think that's like anything. I find it's like working out. You don't want to work out. If people tell you they do, they're lying. You like the feeling at the end, but I don't like today I was supposed to work out before we did this and I didn't. So now I got to do it after. Yeah. And I'm already aggravated by that. So it's the same thing. So I try to address them and be disciplined about it, But at the same time, you can tell if you're having an off day. I think it was Michael Bolton. I read an article once that said he would come in and sing like one line, and he would just know. He was like, it's not going to happen, and you would leave. Like, and that was it. Like, they would have, $1 million studio, and everybody's waiting for Michael Bolton. But he was like, I'm not going to waste your time.
You got to feel it.
Because, it's just not going to happen today.
On the other hand, I remember one of my favorite bands growing up was Oasis, and Liam was asked, the lead singer Liam Gallagher was asked about writing a song, and he's like, took me 3 minutes. I think it was Little James, and they're like, where did the inspiration come from? And he's like, I sat down, picked up a guitar, and he had a song in 3 minutes.
Some of them come that way, like that one, Love Will Make You Home. I was thinking about my life and where I was at the time, and like, just I was thinking about someone in particular that like doesn't understand that life could be really good. There's some people out there that just don't believe it. They're like, and I gotta go to work and I gotta do this, and they're just, and it's like there's a lot of people out there like that, and that's what I was thinking about. And I wasn't trying to write a song. I was just feeling emotional about it, and I just picked up the guitar and strummed a few chords, and it's still one of my favorite songs. I'm hoping that it finds its now. And but there's some of them are just that easy, and some are really hard. Like, it shouldn't be.
Tell us about Miss You. Where did Miss You come from, and the Wounded Warrior Project? Tell us about the heart behind that.
Miss You is another example of that. My grandmother passed away, and I was with my family for a few days, and my grandparents were married for like 56 years. They had this beautiful relationship, and anybody that's watched anything like that, it just seems so unfair. You're like, well, what's the point of all of this? You know what I mean? You meet somebody, you have this beautiful life, you build all this stuff, and then it's over, and it was just like reflective. So I wrote some music that was kind of just moving me, and I don't know, I just wrote some music down, and I showed Scotty, and he got super emotional, and he didn't even know what I was writing it about. I just wrote the music, and I had a couple lines that weren't even in the song in the end. But I think I was saying everything is changing, because that's how it felt. Like their house was gone, like my childhood was kind of gone. Like that was like my core of my family was those people,
Your comfort zone.
Yeah. So, and, especially since my mom passed so young, like my grandparents were really, that house, everything was like, that was my life. And I knew that was over. So I felt like a grown up, and it was like intense, So Scott heard it, and he got super emotional, and he wrote lyrics to that song in a couple minutes. And it was, he lost his dad when he was 14. And anybody that's lost a parent or someone super close to them, you get it. It's a club we all join. It's just at different times. And so we just wrote it, and we didn't really think about it. I laid the vocal down in like 5 minutes. We threw up a mic, and I did it. And we released it on our debut album in 2011. And we actually used the same vocal when we redid the song, because I never could capture that again. Like, it was really just me reading it off a piece of paper that we had tears on, because we just wrote it so honestly, and as cheesy as that sounds, but we really did. And Scotty really was he just nailed it. He just nailed how that felt, and all of that. So, and I just sang it with my heart, and people seemed to like it. And then it rolled years later into the Wounded Warrior Project thing, and we never would have thought that was going to happen.
If you guys are listening right now, I recommend that you do check that out. If you're diving into BreakerBox and you want to hear more and learn more about Christina, check out Miss You. What's the easiest way to do that? Is it BreakerBox?
You can go to BreakerBox.tv. BreakerBox.tv, or our YouTube page. You just search BreakerBox. It's one word. We show up, and then or we're on Spotify, BreakerBox. So it's kind of everywhere.
Let's talk about the other half of BreakerBox, the man behind the black baseball cap. Does he sleep with it on?
No, he doesn't. He's like Slash. Like, you just know him with that hat. Like,
look. Yeah.
He created a brand without trying. This is really what he wears all the time. But he's a very honest dude.
But now he like almost has to wear it.
I know.
How do you transition? Yeah, he's got to live with it now. But so tell me more about Scott. What's he like, and you know, what's working like? Talk about Big Heads and Beats and what you guys are doing there, collaborating on a new project.
Yeah, well, he's he's a badass. That's why I hang out with him all the time. But he's he really inspired me to become an entrepreneur, because I didn't really have the courage to do it. I was a waitress for years and years, and I was always broke and very aggravated.
Mm-hmm.
And people that worked with me, there are many out there that worked with me at restaurants, knew I was like the young, mean waitress. Like I acted like I was 62. Like I had enough. I didn't like people anymore, because I started waiting tables when I was like 13.
Yeah.
So by the time I was in my mid-20s, I was very over it, and poor. Like I was tired of being poor. And because when you're not really that great at, I mean, I was good at doing it, but I didn't enjoy the job. I didn't want to do it, so it was very obvious. And I was always traveling with my music, so I kept losing my jobs. They don't like when you leave for a week. You know? And that was always my priority. So if I had an opportunity in New York, I quit my job. I'm like, sorry, I'm going to perform for Sony. I'm not staying here.
Yeah.
Because you have a dinner rush. So long story short, Scott always had a drum lesson studio, and he worked out of Buffalo Drum Outlet for a long time. And he had like 40 students a week, and he was wearing his own clothes, and you know, he was able to invest in our music, and he was able to, have his own freedom. And I just thought that was really great. And he always encouraged me to do it, but we never could nail like what I would do. And I finally just started selling caricature art to restaurants. So he's always been my partner. Like if there's something that we want to do and we can do it together, we do. I mean, we have our own separate businesses too, but he's just he's a really good partner. And I knew that we wanted to move to Nashville, and we had to figure out a way for us to kind of work in this fresh environment. And we were flying home from a trip here, and we were like half asleep. And I just kind of like the Big Heads and Beats, because we were both saying like there's something we're missing. There's something there that we're just missing. It's right in front of our face. And he's like, what if I just played my electronic drum? And then we just started developing it, and we marketed it and jumped and moved down here. But now it's been my company's top seller, and people love it. And the one thing, Scott, and I think, with anybody that is successful at any level, I mean, we have a long way to go. We've come far, but we have a long way to go. Is he just went outside his comfort zone, which is not easy to do when you're, an Italian Lovejoy dude, anybody, I mean, anybody, it's hard to do, but like, that's why that's why when I met him when I was 19, I just like hung with him every day. I was like, well, this guy just sees things differently. He thinks big. He doesn't do what everybody tells him to do. Like, and that was always me by myself, which when you're doing that alone, you're just like a jerk, but when you have a partner, now you're a team. So like anytime we can think of ways to do something differently, as hard as that usually is, it really pays off. And so that's why he's been my partner, and he really helped me kind of develop the Big Heads and Beats thing. And we've both been working down here pretty quickly, which was really great. And I'm very grateful.
So talking about from a business and entrepreneur standpoint, would you say, Scott was someone who got it done? He made it happen. So his actions would really speak. So he would have an idea. Hey, I want to make some money, and I'm a drummer. Cool. I'll sell drum lessons out of what was it, Buffalo Drum Outlet, you said?
He started there, but then he moved into his own facility. Probably.
And now he's doing it online. He does.
Now he's doing it online.
He does lessons online, which is super cool. I want to hang on.
Always try to grow.
Yeah, I want to hang on Big Heads and Beats, but also kind of wrap up a little bit on BreakerBox as well. So, what was your greatest so far? I know that there's new material, new content coming out, but to date, what's been your greatest moment with BreakerBox? Maybe it was a venue that you played, or just something that you can reflect on and you're really proud of.
The first thing that came to mind was we decided we were going to be a duo, because we had played with a lot of different players over the years, and it was getting really hard. The older you get and the longer you're in the game, a lot of people get married, they have kids, their priorities change. It's just what happens. So we were losing people, left and right. And, and unfortunately, as wonderful as Western New York is, it's very challenging to be a full-time musician there. I mean, it just is. So a lot of people had to just make choices. And we knew we had to kind of become a duo. And Scott developed this system where we could perform to the tracks we recorded in the studio. And we did this out of pure faith. We were in our basement. We had in-ear monitors. He literally built a computer system with a couple companies that he knew that would help us run these tracks. And we had an opportunity to perform for Sony. And it was in Lake George at a pilot for a TV show. We had never performed this. We had never done it before. We had Audio-Technica microphones sponsored us, and Roxanne Ricks from Audio-Technica has been amazing to us, and she's been a wonderful person in our life. But we broke one of our in-ear monitors. And Scott called Audio-Technica, who's in Ohio, and he was like, we have a performance in 2 days in Albany, and she's like, don't come here. We're going to send you what you need. So she overnighted us a whole new system, and we drove up to Lake George, and we played in front of Sony, and we had never played in this way before ever. So no pressure.
Yeah.
And we try to convince the sound man of what this whole setup was, which he didn't understand. This is all on Scott. He's covered in just like.
This is the first time Scott's playing with the laptop next to him?
Yeah, ever.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a click track. So you have a click track in your music with no vocals and no drums. And it's everything we recorded. So it was our music. We were comfortable with it, but we rehearsed like crazy in the basement. I was staring at a wall, and I'm like just visualizing what it was going to be. So we performed, and we did 2 sets because they filmed it. The first set, I heard nothing. I heard ee! In my headphones, so I had to rip my in-ears out, and all I heard was the stage monitors. So I followed Scotty, and Scotty had his own monitoring system, so he was okay. Yeah. And I just trusted him. He trusted me, and that was all the years of playing together, of just pure trust of like, be okay. But long story short, at the end of that, there was a jazz trio that was watching us. And these were like real jazz cats, like the real deal guys. And they were the first people to come up to us and like, we just saw what you did and we know what you did. That was incredible. And that, for some reason, out of everything that's happened, which is we've had some great moments, that was the coolest thing, was to get props from like, because we were like, oh man, we're just playing the tracks. Is that, I don't know, is that like kind of weird? And we weren't sure. This was like 2010. And to have jazz musicians say like, that was the most jazz thing you can do today is to play it with click like that and play with energy and vigor. Like we're not like clicking, you know.
They understood that I mean, you're overcoming, I talk about it in my other episodes, you know, from a business standpoint, overcoming adversity in a moment and how it makes you stronger. But they appreciated, musicians get it. Like I don't know if I've ever played a show where something went, or the whole night went completely as planned, right? There's always something, there's a little feedback, figure out where it's coming from, or, you know, your drumstick snaps in half in the middle of a song. Like we've been through it all, right? But you know, musicians who, you know, these guys, they saw you and they could see that you ripped your ear monitor out and you were in the moment listening and just naturally now letting your natural gifts take over. And they appreciated that more than you having like the perfect, almost like live studio, if that makes sense to us, but where you have like your in studio, you know, version in your ear.
Right. It wasn't this cushy thing. And I think they appreciated our balls, which I thought was.
Yeah. Your resilience, right?
I appreciated that. So that's the moment I think of the most.
Yeah.
Probably, off the top of my head.
That's awesome. This is kind of a 2-part question. So who would you say has had the greatest impact or positive influence on you? Could be anybody, musician, artist, family member, entrepreneur. And then, you know, who's also like your favorite all-time artist or band? So it's kind of 2 point. It might not be the same answer, but like, where did you get your most influence from and inspiration? And then like, who's your favorite band that you just can always put it on and make you feel good?
Well, I think my Uncle Ron was my biggest influence in my life. I've been very lucky. I had a lot of really good people influencing me. Since I left home really young, I had like 15 people kind of side raising me. But my mom's sister's husband, and my aunt, his wife Sherry, they were very much like my parents, really growing up. But my Uncle Ron just passed away last year in May, and he was just an awesome, badass guy. You know, he was an entrepreneur. He was an innovative doctor. And more than anything, he just always would suggest things to me. He never sat down and said, you need to do this. But he would suggest books and really like, he's the one that brought me to the study of kind of the law of attraction and just how your thoughts become things and, you know, how you can really create your life if that's what you want, you know. And there was really a point where he almost kind of deprogrammed me from everything I had been raised to believe. and to follow my passion. He never, ever discouraged me. He only encouraged me to become what I am. And being a doctor and being so big on education, and now that he's passed, I found that out at his funeral, that, you know, he would always push everyone, like, you need to go to college, you need to learn your craft. And he never told me to do that. So I didn't realize that till he passed away. That
he knew you were different. You were wired differently, and you had a different place, you know? And I mean,
he always embraced who I was, and he did that with everybody. And I think that's my biggest thing I learned from him, was he never judged people. And he really embraced people for who they were, but he also knew when people were toxic. You know, he knew when to go, I'm just going to send you some prayers and I'm going to go over here. He was like real good at that. So my Uncle Ron was my biggest influence and my favorite guy in the world, for sure. And as far as music goes, Bob Marley is my go-to. Like, I didn't realize it till my uncle passed, that the hardest times of my life, that was the music I would listen to incessantly. I don't know why. I can't really put any reason to it. It's not anything. I mean, the lyrics are very positive. They're all about overcoming things and, you know, really finding that connection to God. And so I think it's almost like my little fight songs are Bob Marley songs. But I was deep into Bob Marley when I was like 16. I had a ridiculous amount of CDs, bootlegs from Europe, and that was like my jam. And then when my uncle died, I kind of found myself listening to him all the time again. So there's something really peaceful and inspiring, and it's just kind of universal. And I don't think, like other artists, I'm analyzing things, or I don't know. For some reason with Bob Marley, I just listen, and like it just heals me in a different way.
Well, so, even when you mentioned it, I can tell like your body language changed. Of just you could tell like it's an energy thing. Like each song and each artist, you know, you tie it to moments in life. Sometimes great moments, other times could be sad, and it's just like it's the core of what the song is. And it's what I love about music and art. It could be movies as well. You know, 10 people can watch the same movie or look at the same piece of art or listen to the same song, and there can be 10 variations going on at the same time. Like what it means to you and what it means to somebody else can be different. And that's what I really love about art. There is no right or wrong. There is no, you know, like you said earlier, and we were talking about writing a song. How do you attack it? Well, that's up to the individual artist. You know, there's different right or wrong methods. You know, it's interesting to see how everybody approaches it, because I think as a musician, you want to see what other people are doing and share how you're doing it. So that's really cool. You landed yourself in Nashville recently within the last 12 months, 24 months?
12 months. Yeah, we just moved. It was a year, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, amazing. So, and I mentioned this earlier, you know, you have the entrepreneurial spirit. It's really like the DIY. I know you use the hashtag a lot. You're really focused on like do it yourself. Don't rely on like a company or corporate to build you. Do it, start from the ground up in the trenches.
Right.
I see that shining through on your posts on social media. I love your mindset. You totally get it. And that's why I really wanted to showcase you on the show. You have a big heart. I know that from meeting you initially and just our conversations over the last couple of years. And you're obviously you're filled with booming talent. You make Buffalo proud. I'll speak for all of us here. We're rooting you on. If you can give one message to our audience, leaving them inspired to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams, what would it be?
It's your mindset, 100%. If you knew me, people that do know me 15 years ago don't recognize me. And I don't recognize me. And it is my faith in God. It was visualization and meditation, my disciplines, my habits, and just belief in not just yourself, but, and this is my opinion, this is what has worked for me. It's not just believing in yourself, it's believing in the universe is working with you to help you be the happiest you can be on this planet, you know, and it's very challenging to unprogram yourself. A lot of us in general have been programmed other ways, you know, to believe other things. And there's a very big reason why there's so much depression, especially today. And yes, it's social media, I think does have a lot to do with it, but it's mainly, I believe, the overstimulation with the wrong messages. It's like you have to feed your body good food and you have to feed your head good information.
Your mind,
you know,
right?
if you, if, and I didn't for a really long time. So I think I can talk a little bit. I really didn't, and it didn't work. You know, my way, that was the way I grew up, and how this fighting mentality of, you know, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm going to do it my way. And I got a lot to prove. And that whole like energy just didn't work. It didn't work. And then when I really turned to God and I started, the best way to sum it up is my first half an hour to an hour in the morning is the best work I do before I hit the streets or go out and meet people or connect with anybody or network or any of that shit. If I don't start my day right, and that's, to me, is some meditation. I read my goals. I take time to visualize what I want my life to be like, you know, and it's challenging. There's definitely days that I don't feel it. You know, I definitely, I know what I put in my body makes a huge difference. You know, I partied quite a bit when I was young, and it just delayed the shit out of my life. It's like, there's no other way to put it. It's fun. You have a good time. I worked on Chippewa. I opened the clubs down there. That was my life. I was in a band. You know, people knew me back then. And you know, we did our thing. I was in that life. That was what I thought it was all about. And it changed, and I'm glad it changed. I'm glad society kind of changed. Like, that's not really the thing anymore. You know, I do use the hashtag Life of the DIY because that's our concert series that we're doing. And, but that's part of my business, is life in the DIY. And it's not, you know, it's about partnering with people and building collaborative efforts more than being an employee. There's other people that love to be an employee, and thank God, because I have people that work with me that aren't like me. So they don't want to do what I do. They're like, oh God, please tell me when the job is. I don't want to be you. But, and then I love that. And I have a lot of wonderful artists and people in my life that I partner with that don't have that energy, and I do. So thank God that we have all met each other. But that's definitely the most, is you can start where you are with what you have right now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to go do something. You don't need money that you don't have. I was as poor as you get. I'm still, you know, I'm comfortable, but I ain't rolling, you know, but I'm getting there. But everything that I built, and Scott and I have built together, was based on God, love, and faith, 100%. And if that wasn't the core of my life, I know what I was like when that wasn't the core of my life. And it wasn't, it was a struggle. Everything was uphill all the time. And it's really, and there's people out there, follow him. Zuri Appleby's one of them. She's a bass player from Buffalo. She's a badass. She's out with Adam Lambert right now.
Cool.
She jumped in complete faith to Los Angeles and made it. You know, she's making it. And what that means is very different to everybody. You know, you don't have to be a musician. It's not about being an artist or a musician. It could be, you know, Scott's sister, Donna. She has Have a Straw Hill. It's a decor site, a blog, and now she's blowing up on Instagram. She's just doing stuff that she did her whole life in her house. She's a home decor expert. And now she's, you know, teaching everybody how to make incredible Christmas trees and living her best life, you know. But that's her thing. She wrote it down. She was like, this is what I want to accomplish. And you read it every day. Like, you start to become a little cuckoo, but it's better than being lost. You know, I'd rather people go like, wow, Christina's really intense. I don't think I can be around her. But I know where I'm headed. You know what I mean? And that's okay. It's like, I'm lucky I found a guy that can tolerate me and my energy every day. And, you know, we're just on our path and doing our thing.
Yeah, you guys, I mean this out of respect for all the guests on the show so far, but that 10 minutes right there, whatever that happened to be, that speaks to me, and I know that brings a lot of value to our listeners. That's why I'm doing the show. I love it. Created time to do this show for exactly what you just said, and something I wanted to kind of add to it is, and you mentioned it, you know, God, love, and faith is what drove the vehicle for you to create BreakerBox, Big Heads and Beats, Big Head Cartoon, get you out to Nashville, give you direction. You start your day off with gratitude, meditation. You're putting better things in your body. You're eliminating, call it junk, both influence and substance. I mean, it's not a checkbox deal, but you're doing the right things, you know, and it's not like you don't need me to validate that for you, but
well, it's like too, you're learning, That was something I had to embrace. I was not a big reader. I wasn't a big like researcher. But now I make my Uncle Ron, I make a very, very big point to always kind of be reading a new book, even if you touch it on it a little bit.
You're consuming the content. It's learning doesn't stop when you stop going to school. I mean, that's
more now than I ever did in school.
I agree.
I hated school.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I didn't necessarily hate it so much, but I knew it wasn't pointing me in the direction for my end game. So it was very much like the system I had to go through to get out of there. That's kind of how I looked at it. But, what you realized and what clicked for you, it sounds like through your story, is that you realized you weren't the person in the driver's seat as much. So you were working through him, universe, you mentioned God, you're using your talents for the greater good. And that's when it started to really click. And now you're doing it on a bigger scale. You got multiple people working underneath you. Some, like I said earlier, you're making Buffalo proud. You're doing all the right things. And the best part about all of that is you're doing what you love and you're getting it out into the universe. And so this place that we're on called Earth is a better place when people like Christina are out there doing what they're great at, what they're passionate about. And it's cool. You get to share it. Yeah, you get to share it with Scott too.
Yeah, and you as well, man. Back at you. I mean, you're doing the same thing. I mean, it takes courage to do what you're doing. And if there's anything else I could add, which I'd like to, is a lot of the things over the past 3 years that have happened, if I would have done what I used to do and say like, but that's a lot of work. But yeah, that might be tough. I would have missed out on so much. Like, I mean, just have the courage to fail. Like, I've definitely failed. I mean, I've publicly failed numerous times. Like, I don't know if I cared, but I did. Sure. But even now, the stuff that I'm doing, I'm scared out of my mind what I'm doing right now. Like because I'm always stepping it up. I'm not just staying comfortable. And I didn't understand that was a really big part of it. Like I grew up in a culture, and I think a lot of Buffalonians do, where you're like, get that job, it's got good benefits, buy that house, raise your kids. And it's true. That's what you need to do. I mean, if that's your calling in your life, raise your family, have a good life for your family, but don't stay comfortable as a person. You're just going to get that's when that like ickiness and the depression kind of comes. And it's like, just try to step up your game in any way you can. If it's volunteering somewhere and just like reaching new people, it doesn't have to always be about money or on being an entrepreneur. Like, we're a different breed that not everybody's like this, and rightfully so. Like, thank God we don't want a bunch of me's out there. Sure. But you have to just kind of shake it up when you can.
You listen to your heart, and that's like, if there's something that's disconnected, not fulfilled, then you start to kind of reverse engineer, well, what is it that I want? You mentioned writing it down, putting a plan in place, and then executing it through the things, spending more time doing the things you love. But you didn't just stop there. It's not like you're just playing your keyboard and singing songs at your house or your apartment. Now you're connecting it to a business. You figured out what Scott great at, what you're great at, what your strengths are. How can you turn it into a business? So that, I think, is kind of the whole thing summarized.
And that's from meditation. That's from meditation. Yeah. Because Scott and I always talk about this. It's not really just about, whatever your faith is. If you believe in God, if you believe in the universe, you call it universal energy, whatever you call it. We ask a lot of it. We used to be like, oh God, please give me this, and please have this happen. And, thank you for this and thank you for that. But you have to listen. And I didn't really understand that it's a conversation. So the meditation is the only time my crazy ass brain calms enough where I get the messages, like where I'll get like an inspired action. I'll be cooking eggs later that day and I'll go, that's what I need to do. I mean, write it down. But it will come to you. You just have to listen. All the answers are there. I mean, as frustrating as it feels sometimes, because everybody hits these lows where you really have doubts and you just don't know. But God is guiding us, and it's going in a good direction if we got to pay attention and listen. And that's the challenge, is being aware of it.
I have recently experienced that personally. I can tell the audience that when things started to click for me over the last couple months, and when I got the courage and insight and basically figured out everything I needed to do to get to the point of sitting in this chair having this conversation with you right now, is when I stopped thinking and trying to drive the car myself, and I started to listen and figure out not everything is going to happen at the time we want and expect it.
Ever.
But if we're doing the right things, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and it's the right energy, we will be surprised and make sure we're listening, because you got to take those cues, you know, and sometimes they pop in. You're, like you said, you're cooking and all of a sudden it popped in your head. You were listening and then you were ready to take a cue and it was there.
Yeah. And it's acting on it quickly. Like
and
you did, you know,
writing it down, acting on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And taking action. And I think, and just not getting in your own way, which is so easy to say, but like even myself, like growing up, I was going to be Whitney Houston. I'm like, that's my plan. I'm like, that was my plan. Like I had a girl group when I was a little kid and I was firing people. And this was me since I was a little kid. And this is going in a direction I never would have expected. But I identified my gift, which wasn't just singing and drawing and like, okay, I knew I had those talents, but like, what is my gift? What's the thing I really do the easiest with the least amount of effort? And like, I really entertain. That's kind of my thing. I like to sing in front of people. I like to talk in front of people. I like to talk to the kids and the people I draw. And it's really just kind of entertaining. So once I grabbed that, all these other opportunities started showing themselves where I could be myself and they're fulfilling, you know, and the music business is crazy. Like it's crazy. It makes no sense. It's like, it's insane. So to be able to find a way to live a good life and create money out of that has been really crazy. And I know a few people, you know, Daniel Powell in Buffalo, he's a straight up concert promoter. He's killing it down there. I mean, there's a lot of people right in Buffalo that are doing incredible things, but Buffalo's got to shine the light. They got to turn around. They got to support them. They got to show up to those shows and and trust me, you're going to get a great product. Everybody there is ridiculously talented. I've been living in Nashville for a year. I know so many talented people back home. I think about them constantly. I'm like, oh my God, we got to get Grace Jumberg down here. You know, like there's
shout out to Grace.
Everywhere. But everybody has, you know, Maya by name, incredible. You know, there's people that are just as brave as us. Ali Critelli jumped and moved down here.
I was just thinking, Ali, when you started to talk about people in Buffalo that are going to make it, and like the next, she was one that came to mind.
Yeah, like I mean, it just takes the courage. There's a lot of Eric Van Houten came here. You know, it would be. Do
you guys hang out at all? Like Eric's in Nashville, right?
Yeah, we're all. I mean, it's weird. We're all here, but I think it's such a grind when you get here that everybody kind of supports each other, but you don't really always see each other. You know, but and also we weren't really in a circle in Buffalo either. So it's definitely a respect and a hey, keep going kind of thing. But Scott and I especially, we have like our head down right now, just working really, really hard every day.
Not that you want to categorize it either, but you're probably not on the same bill with Eric. He's
super country and he's killing it.
He's phenomenal. Yeah. And how would you, this is always a tough thing when I was in different bands and we had different sounds. I never really like to answer it, so I feel kind of silly asking it. But just so like the audience has an understanding, if they haven't heard BreakerBox, talk about like your music and like how would you define BreakerBox?
It's synth pop rock. You know, it's alternative pop rock for sure. It's kind of a modern day Eurythmics kind of thing. So it's got a lot of soul in the vocal, and we like really catchy songs. But at the same time, we loved the groove of like Pantera, and so there's like into that in there too. Especially the new stuff that we have coming out. I mean, we're always kind of changing and growing, but there was definitely like a hard rock influence, but at the same time pop, because we loved funk and pop and stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of a middle ground between where Hailstorm is and like where Kelly Clarkson is. We kind of fall in the middle of that.
I definitely feel that. I think that's great. I mean, your influences definitely shine through, which is great. There is that funky element to it. There's that heavy hard rock element to it at times. So I could talk to you all day. I love talking about music. I love what you're doing. We can continue the conversation after, but to keep it somewhat timely for our listeners who are hopefully listening to this while they're commuting and kind of using this as their university on wheels as part of the podcast, part of tuning into what they're interested in. I know there's a lot of value here, so I appreciate you doing this and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you asking me. Thank you.
2020 is going to be a big year. I'm calling it the year of clarity. It looks good looking at it, like 2020, year of clarity. I have so much personally I'm looking forward to doing, and it starts now, right? It's like Thanksgiving week. If you're listening to this, it's probably closer to Christmas time right now. But we're recording again. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and you got to be hustling now for what's going to happen on January 1st. You can't just, and that goes on anything. It goes for, if it doesn't matter what area of life, you got to start doing things like 60 days, 90 days, and there's not even that much time left in the year.
No, it's crazy. It's a
year, 45, not even 35 days left, maybe.
No, you're depressing me.
This has been awesome. Hey, maybe we could do another one. I'll come down to Nashville and we can do one in studio. Oh, there's one thing I wanted to get to.
Sure.
We're going to do one more thing. This has been, we're definitely going over, cool. We get, what I love about doing the show? I get to create the rules, and we're going to go a little bit longer. I have to Atrium Studios, hanging out with Tommy Lee and Motley Crue. Let's end on a crazy story, and then we'll wrap up.
Tommy Lee made me brownies.
He made you brownies? Weed brownies?
No.
Oh.
He actually made me like real brownies. We were, he was just awesome. It wasn't why we went there.
Yeah.
He was a beautiful side effect of us actually recording there. We were co-producing some songs with Chris Basford, who's worked with Nickelback, Pink. I know everybody hates Nickelback, but he did a really good job with them. He's an incredible producer. So we worked with him, and he ran the Atrium at Tommy's house. So it was this exclusive studio that we were going to do drums at, because if you're going to record drums, record them at Tommy Lee's house. Like if you have that opportunity, you go. Yeah. So we went, and it happened to be on Scott's birthday. So we had met Tommy when we went there because it was in his house. And so that was just awesome. And he was very gracious and kind, and we didn't overdo it with him. We just kind of, met him, and he took us on a little tour, and we went and, and it's in the basement of his house, which is like used to be like a 15-car garage. So it's this gorgeous studio. And we were working, and then all of a sudden we get this knock on the door, and T-Bone comes in with this plate of like cupcake brownies. And he made them for Scotty for his birthday. So
that's really cool.
And they were amazing.
Yeah.
Like he ass off. So that's what he was doing. He was home from tour, and he was like cooking for his friends, and everybody was there, and it was just really surreal. But that was the coolest. He made us fudge brownies. But he was really great. He gave us, backstage passes to shows here in Nashville, and like all that, the end tour, which is not the end now, but the Motley Crue tour that they were doing. And he just gave us advice and feedback on our stuff, and tweeted about us. And, we're not besties, but he definitely has been, he's been a cool dude in our life. And, we always say we randomly manifested Tommy Lee into our life. Like it doesn't.
I don't know if it's random though. I mean, it's through the thing. That's something that I'm reading about right now is, manifesting it, but also it's through what you're doing. You're thinking about it. You're mindful. You talked about prayer, meditation, writing it down. Maybe you didn't specifically say Tommy Lee, but it was going out there and being a whole part of the actual scene of what you wanted to do. And you find yourself hanging out in Tommy Lee's basement. Well, studio. So,
but he is one of, especially Scotty, but I got into him as an artist. I got into him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't know much about him, some people, if you take them surfacey, they know the Sex Tape, they know Pam Anderson, they know Motley Crue, but
or him like swinging around in the cage, like upside down, playing a drum solo.
That's such a, he's so innovative. Like we got to be like in a conversation with him about that, about why he's everything that we believe is like, don't just do what everybody else is doing. And so he's in this position where he has to top himself.
Yeah.
So that's big stress. He's like, I don't even know what else I could do anymore. And now he's coming back. I mean, we haven't talked to him, but I'm really interested to see what he does. He's going to have to start himself on fire. Like the last thing he was doing was going to clean across the arena.
I remember.
Upside down. He's fallen from that. Like that's really high. Like I go to the third level of a studio in the stadium, and I can't breathe because I'm scared of heights. He's up there, kind of braced in, and like he's fallen straight down and hit his head. And I mean, he's a different dude, but he'll do anything to make that show be the best thing you've ever seen. And he also got his front stage for Alice Cooper, and Alice Cooper gave me his cane. So
there you go. That's
holy
cool.
Shit. So
really cool.
There's been those are, in my opinion, the universe kind of going, you're on the right path, kid. Just keep, here's Alice's cane.
Yeah.
So I have it in my living room, and I look at it all the time because it keeps me going, like everything is possible. I'm from Riverside.
It's a reminder. It's a reminder that, you did it, and you know, again, you were connected to it, and you experienced it, and you look at it, and it's like, what's the next thing? What's the next cane? What's the next? What's the next plate of brownies? What's the next moment that you can create?
And I will say this: I always felt like, in a great way, we were right where we needed to be. We weren't intimidated by the situation. It was a lot of work to get there. Mm-hmm. And we just felt like, okay, let's just do our best, because we're in front of like the rock star. Mm-hmm. Like the rock star. When you think of them, there's a couple. Ozzy, Tommy Lee. Yeah, you know, so like we're in front of
the top 10 list of rock star names for sure.
Yeah. So we just, you know, it felt appropriate in a weird way of like, we worked really hard. You know, that didn't just like come out of nowhere, as much as I say it did. It definitely felt like, all right, thank you.
That's like, awesome. Well, send my best to Scott. Tell him I said hello. I'm looking forward to the new material coming down next month or into the new year for BreakerBox. Again, BreakerBox.tv. Check them out. Christina, thank you so much for your time, your friendship, and for embracing the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for doing what you're doing, man. Keep going.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Cheers. Hey guys, this is Mike, and I wanted to personally thank you for tuning in, for being part of my journey. Together we can make a positive impact in the world. I highlighted a few of my favorite segments from Christina's interview, and there were plenty. That was a blast. Here are my notes. Do not stay comfortable. Listen to your heart and reverse engineer exactly what you're looking to achieve. That can be business, maybe it's a partner, a new passion project, whatever it is, plan it and execute your plan. I love how Christina is utilizing her God-given talents, and as the title of this episode states, she's feeding her spirit and living her dreams. I truly want that to be a major takeaway from this episode. What is your passion, your dream, and how can you make an impact doing it? In Christina's case, she learned how to listen through meditation and having an active role listening to God, or maybe for you that's the universe. The answers are there. You need to simply open up your mind and your spirit and listen. God is guiding us. I can personally attest to that firsthand. Once you have the clarity of your plan, be brave and bold in pursuit of your dreams, and most importantly, take action. A shout out to everyone who's been tuning in. I love reading your feedback and appreciate the reviews on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the messages that have been coming in on social media as well. I love you guys. Thank you so much for making this journey as much fun as it's been. If you haven't left a review yet, it's greatly appreciated if you do, and of course, if you share any content on social media as well. I see it all and I appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys for helping spread the love. You can check out more show notes and information at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKED uppodcast.com, powered by Social Chameleon. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful.